Hey everyone, this is Haley from Cartoon Universe, bringing you guys another theory. In the recent Steven Universe episodes, it's worth noting how most plot developments are in line of interpersonal relationships. We've seen interactions between Lapis and Peridot, Steven and Amethyst, Greg and Andy, and lastly Greg and the Crystal Gems in the past. But looking back at how Steven Universe was when it first aired, there is a marked difference. In the beginning, the plot conflicts revolved around the presence of a corrupted gem, and our cast of characters realizing something about themselves or each other because of it. The first episode, in which we're introduced to Steven and the Crystal Gems, featured the corrupt giant Centipeetle, and subsequent episodes like Bubble Buddies, which introduced Connie, and Steven's Lion, which introduced the titular character, both had corrupted gems as an important plot device and character. Season 1A allowed us to believe that the format of Steven Universe would, for the most part, follow this formula. The characters would encounter a corrupted gem, spring into action, and we would have a revelation about the character or the past in the process. This formula changed after Mirror Gem and Ocean Gem though. After Lapis's appearance, we shifted our attention to what was presented as the new and more dangerous threat than just corrupted gems, Homeworld. What might have been the case was the show preparing us for what was to come. Before we got to know the corrupted gems, we saw them as monsters. We thought nothing of the fights that the Crystal Gems had with them because there was a clear differentiation of good and evil. The Crystal Gems were good, the Corrupted Gems were evil. It was that simple. Then we got episodes like Monster Buddies that presented the monsters for what they truly were, gems just like our own protagonists. This half of Season 1 got us to see the classic antagonists in a new light. It taught us to sympathize with those who were different. Each one had a compelling story that we might not have got to see on screen, but existed in the past nonetheless. Not only that, but also how Corrupted Gems' destructive actions were signs of fear. They were lashing out because they felt vulnerable and unable to control their feelings. This set up our expectations for Season 1B. Space Race, Warp Tour, On the Run, Marble Madness, The Message, and Rose's Scabbard. All these episodes started immersing us into the lore of the show, and all these episodes were in the second half of the first season. We got to know that the gems were aliens and not just any magical beings who fought against Homeworld for Earth. And when we finally met our antagonists, like Lapis and Peridot, they appeared on the surface like classic antagonists of any other cartoon series. Lapis was angry, Peridot was cold and calculating. It appeared they had little to no regard for Earth and the characters we were rooting for. This culminated in the Return and Jailbreak, in which we were introduced to the most stereotypical villain-coded character, Jasper. But as Season 2 progressed, we got to know Lapis and Peridot. We saw how they had motives of their own, and were individuals with context we had only had to know about to understand their actions. It was very much like what happened with Corrupted Gems. And then we were faced with what appeared to be even more dangerous threat, the Cluster, which also turned out to be humanized by the end of its arc. Then Jasper at the end of Season 3 was contextualized as well. All this foreshadowing began because of the Corrupted Gems, and for something so important, they've been surprisingly absent in the latter seasons. This leads to the idea that the next time Corrupted Gems appear, it would foreshadow something else that's rather important. The last Corrupted Gem who made a significant appearance was Centipeetle, and her arc was followed by Jasper's corrupting. What we learned from Monster Reunion was that corruption wasn't just a physical process. There's a mental and emotional stress that prevents the gems from fully returning to their original forms. At one point, no amount of Steven's healing saliva would return Centipeetle back to her humanoid form, and the clincher is by that point, the healing saliva was hurting her. That is a significant piece of information, because when talking about corruption as a condition, it shows that any cure must also have mental and emotional components to be effective. I think it is possible that it would take more than just Steven entering a corrupted gem's mind to heal them. While I have speculated on many different possible cures to corruption, it is likely that it would take a combination of different methods, including time, to undo most of the corruption process. Things like reminders from their past would be key to getting these gems to remember who they once were. What's more, corruption isn't a stable state either. We've learned that corrupted gems are in constant pain and confusion that causes them to be aggressive and violent. Centipeetle was finally stabilized when she was reunited with her crew, and it's likely we never encountered her crew before because they were already waiting with each other for her return. So now we have gems like Jasper, and also the dozens of corrupted gems in the Gem Temple who are currently bubbled. The Crystal Gems have rounded them up and neutralized them, but we know Steven doesn't want to stop at just immobilizing them. He wants to heal them, and that means before we get a chance to witness Jasper's healing process, we must go back to the Corrupted Gems. Steven is probably going to learn from his experiences with Centipeetle and apply them when he deals with Jasper. But even then, it won't lead to complete healing. That means for Steven to learn how to heal Corrupted Gems and have them remember who they were, we'll be revisiting our Corrupted Gems one more time. There's still a lot we don't understand about corruption. Even Steven assumed at one point that healing saliva was all he needed to keep corruption at bay. At the same time, it's significant that the two prominent Corrupted Gems in this series are both Homeworld aligned gems, because we know the Crystal Gems have been counting and collecting their own lost or corrupted soldiers. Garnet said as much in keeping it together. It would make sense that they would want to heal their own gems, but it's interesting that the first gems to kickstart the corruption healing process are those who historically were the Crystal Gems' enemies. With that, it's not expected that Corrupted Gems have disappeared from the plot altogether. They definitely will be seen in the future and hold the key to knowing more about the history of the war and Homeworld. So I hope you enjoyed this video, which was written by the wonderful theorist, Poet of the Piano. Now to note some channel related things, I am happy to say that because so many of you attended my first theory crafting livestream, it was definitely a success. I think I'm going to continue doing these live streams every few weeks, but we will be moving the streams to Twitch. The account name is Cartoon UV. I'll also be having different guests join me for each stream. And with that, I have a new option for our Patreon supporters. Those who donate $30 or more each month will automatically get to be part of that week's theory crafting livestream. Of course, I would like to thank my current Patreon supporters for their continued support. A new supporter this time is Brian Burke. Also make sure to follow our official Instagram at Cartoon UV. I've been posting all the fusion and gem rooms and plan to make this a place where I post updates in the future. Thanks for watching!